Gaurav Sharma is with us. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Prime Minister or anyone high up in the party been in touch with you since your revelations last night?
No, nobody's talked to me officially from the party side.
Do you expect to get expelled?
Look, I don't know what the decision is, but, we can only find out. It might be done on Monday night, the night before Tuesday.
Will you be going to either of the meetings?
Well, I haven't been invited to this one. The last one, I just want to be very clear. When I was invited, I had told them that I already had engagements in place, including to the point where a Three Waters Related Select Committee was coming on the day. And many weeks ago, I had been asked if I could go, and I said I couldn't because I still had community engagements. But also the whole result was already predetermined, as we found out. So was there a point of actually going there, even if I wasn't already engaged with other commitments?
If you get expelled, do you care?
Well, look, it's about getting justice, right? And on this path to getting justice, I mean, I'm sure everyone will try to silence me one way or the other, but that's what matters the most to me. What the Prime Minister should have done last Friday when she went and did a press statement was to call a public inquiry at that point, but she hasn't done that. And every day, the issue has been spun off to a whole different point and completely deflected from the claims that I've made.
Why don't you want mediation?
Because I'm the one who's saying, if there is an issue with me, you investigate me. I've been saying for 1.5 years, if there is an issue with me, you investigate me. And they said, no, we don't want to investigate you. I take the lawyer into the room. Half an hour later, apparently everything about staffing issue is resolved. Like within 30 minutes of taking a lawyer into the room, it's resolved because a lot of the evidence, even from parliamentary services, is fabricated. Evidence was provided. I provided evidence. Other staff members provided evidence in my support. And parliamentary services clearly stated they don't want an investigation into this. So the mediation would work, if they had an independent investigation even before, if they were ready to look into the facts. But that's not what they want. The decision is already predetermined, as we said. And somebody told me that, they'd already discussed the whole issue. The whole jury had met up on Monday night, apart from the person they accused, which is now me. How does that work?
That unfortunately sunk them in terms of honesty, as far as I can work out. As far as the trouble is concerned, in your view, who's the bigger criminal here? Is it Ministerial Services or is it the Labour Party / the Leader's office?
Well, I think everyone is in it together right now. Everybody is trying to save each other. Parliamentary service operates in a manner where there is no accountability at all, and the information they have is used by the party whips to manipulate you. When I raised concerns about parliamentary services, the party wasn't ready to listen. The whips weren't ready to listen. When I talked to the Prime Minister's office about parliamentary services and the whips, the Prime Minister's office wasn't ready to listen about any of those, despite providing significant amount of evidence. And what's crazy is, in December, all the evidence was provided to them, and they still ended up promoting somebody and making them a minister.
It's Kieran McAnulty.
And this wasn't just... Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't just me saying, that I'm getting bullied by this guy. I provided evidence from other MPs that they were getting bullied. But how outrageous is this that the Prime Minister of the country at that time in December didn't investigate it? She wasn't concerned about, the well-being of her MPs then, and she's definitely not worried about the well-being of her MPs now. And another thing is, despite the Prime Minister coming on TV every day for the last few days saying there is no issue here, there's no bullying here, I'm still getting members of the caucus saying, actually, there is an issue of bullying in Parliament. Kieran McAnulty is a bully as well. And thank you for standing up. So despite what the Prime Minister says on TV every day, her caucus colleagues are still saying there is bullying. So, why is she lying?
How many could you produce if you had to, members of your caucus who would say they're being bullied?
So I know of at least 6 who were specifically bullied directly by Kieran McAnulty. They need to come up and say it for themselves, right? I have been able to provide evidence. I've got, these things that I'm able to provide. But obviously, I don't want to jeopardize their privacy. It is a matter of independent investigation that should take place. And that's the point. I'm making claims somebody might be making claims against me. Why would you not clear everybody's name and do a black and white investigation? What is the Prime Minister of New Zealand trying to hide? This isn't just any office. If I worked at McDonald's, if I worked anywhere else, if I worked as a doctor and a similar complaint had been laid, they would have started an investigation such a long time ago.
Tell me about the workshop on the OIA. What were they expecting you to do? What did they want you to do, the Official Information Act?
Yeah, so these conversations, they've had it with us many times. They've had it right from day one. But last Monday, we had a workshop where class of 2020, all the MPs were required to be present. The session was opened by the Prime Minister. There were multiple sessions, obviously, how to talk to media and a few things like that. There was a specific panel which was chaired by the Deputy Chief of Staff for Prime Minister's Office, Holly, the Labour Leader's Office Chair, Philippa, one of the whips, Barbara, and one of the ministers, Aisha Verrell. And that whole conversation was just talking about, how not to sort of do things so that they get OIA'd. So, don't send anything in text, don't send anything in email, pick up the phone or go and talk to somebody face-to-face, because what we don't want is a paper trail. This is not the first time they've said it. They've said it many times before. But, this just goes to show that even if there is a problem and you raise it, then they just remove tracks of it. It's kind of like living in 1984, George Orwell's setting where nothing exists because we'd never talk about it.
Explain to me how the contracting system in the Prime Minister's office works depending on who they work for, the Labour Party leader or the PM.
Yes, so this is the question I specifically asked, when they were talking about this OIA thing, and they were saying, with the Minister's, for example, office, be careful about how you contact them. And actually, one thing they said was instead of messaging the Minister's office, email the Labour Leader's office. So, for example, instead of messaging the Minister of Education's office, then things get OIA'd, why don't you message the education researcher at Labour Leader's office? They will do some work. They'll work behind the scene with the Education Minister's office, and then they will come around and actually give you the answer. But similarly, when I asked specifically about the Prime Minister's office and can they be OIA'd, first of all, they raised their eyebrows and they said, well, why are you asking this? I gave them an example, and then they said, oh, yeah, well, how we do it is that the staff in Prime Minister's office and other Minister's office as well are part-time employed by Prime Minister's office, part-time employed by Labour Leader's office. And if there is anything when we need to fudge stuff, we just say this is a Labour Leader's office issue. This is not a Prime Minister's office issue. So we're not going to, hold the OIA request.
Is this government rotten?
Well, I don't know if the government, specifically this government, is rotten, but the system is rotten. And all I'm asking is for a fair chance and an independent inquiry. And the question that really needs to be asked is, what is it that the Prime Minister is hiding that she doesn't want an investigation? Why wouldn't she want to clear her name, her office's name, the highest office in the country? Why wouldn't they want to clear their name? Why wouldn't they want the Labour Party and the Whip's name to be cleared and the Parliamentary Services name to be cleared? And this isn't just me saying it. The tape that was provided to News Hub, the senior colleague says the same thing, that what the Prime Minister specifically says, what the Prime Minister doesn't want is an independent QC investigation, because that would dig up a lot more things which the Prime Minister doesn't want to be looked at.
Is this an open, honest and transparent government?
Well, not by the way, I've been looking at things. And even if we forget, what's happened in the last 1.5 years, just in the last week itself, there's been anything but transparency. Look at, on Sunday, the caucus makes a chat group with everybody except me. On Monday morning, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern calls, so she's the one who called this meeting, as I was specifically told, and that there will be a meeting that night. In the afternoon, she does a media stand-up, and she says that I was going to get a fair trial, that there was no predetermination. And when specifically asked if she was leaning on one way or the other, she said, no, it was the caucus's decision. She was saying this when she had already called a meeting for that night, secretly, without me. In this meeting, for over an hour, they discussed me. So the only person who wasn't invited was me, the accused. Everybody else was there. And I'm not even the accused, I'm the victim, but I became the accused. So the whole jury was there. They discussed everything and basically decided the course of action. I mean, are they lying? I mean, add up the facts.
Well, two quick questions, in fact, because I'm short on time now. If you get expelled, will you stay as an independent, or do you want a by-election?
Look, I haven't really thought that far. All I want is a fair trial and justice, and just to be heard.
Is the Prime Minister a liar?
Well, going by what we've seen, I mean, you can't make this up. You know, the timeline is very clear. And even on, on Monday, she was on record saying things that didn't stand true. So is she a liar? You can make up your own conclusion.
I'm sure we'll talk again. For now, appreciate it very much. Gaurav Sharma.